Good morning. Today I'm out on field and hunter 28 target course. Normally you shoot 28 field the first day, and then the second day is 28 hunter targets. And this is the most challenging form of archery that I have tried yet. Distances start around 10 yards and increase out to 80. There is only one 80-yard target, which is a good thing, especially when you're competing with a bare bow recurve. But the average distance is quite far. It's actually beyond what your average Pennsylvania whitetail hunter would shoot at. The average distance is probably, I'd say, about 45 yards or so. There's a lot of targets that are 50, 55, 60, and that creates a challenge for those who are willing to accept it. I have found that there are very, very few people that will even show up at a tournament like this with this kind of equipment. In fact, at the state level, there's basically nobody except for myself. That's been that way for the past decade. Part of it has to do with the introduction of the crossbow into the bow hunting scene in Pennsylvania, and I personally am for the crossbow. I've had a lot of success harvesting beautiful bucks and does with the crossbow, and all of that meat is going to help your body rejuvenate naturally, and venison is just about the best thing for your body. If you eat a couple steaks of venison every day and water, I mean, you could literally make it through the winter. Anyway, back to target archery. Basically, every single day that you go out and practice, you'll usually, if you're paying attention, you should be able to find one thing that you need to work on, maybe more than one. And the difference between a shooter that is getting better and a shooter that is getting worse or maintaining the same is usually their ability to recognize their flaw themselves and fix it by themselves. And that requires a lot of self-awareness. Video cameras are another great way to aid yourself in obtaining a better archery shot. And archery form is critical. I don't care what anybody says. It is the most important thing. Consistent, stable archery form is critical. That is, you repeat it the same way on every shot. And for bare bow, at every distance, you're going to have, the only variable is going to be your string walking, which is moving up and down the string, and face walking, which are both legal in the Federation of International Target Archery rulebook. Other rules, basically you're looking at a 12 centimeter ring that needs to be able to slide through an unstrung bow. I measured these last evening, and the longest distance is actually from the clicker plate, extension plate here to the arrow rest, the back of that, and it's under 12. I think it's 11 centimeters in distance, and my weights are 10 centimeters and less, both of them. So this bow is illegal for FIDA. It's kind of a moderately weighted rig. You'll see a lot heavier, you'll see double the amount of weight that I have on some bows, but you also see guys that are shooting well into the 40s, and they can handle the extra bow poundage, and they can handle the extra mass weight. My poundage is 32 pounds for targets. I have found that that's the maximum that I can shoot, and shoot all 114 arrows and still maintain proper form. That's something you need to determine individually by just putting in the time and experimenting. This sport is primarily all about dedication and just being able to fix your own problems and develop your form so that you feel confident when you take the shot. I can't think of any other sport that is this extreme as far as developing your mind, body, and I can even say spiritual connection. And the ability to look at yourself from a third person view, in my case through a video camera, goes a long way to helping you correct form issues that you may never have been aware of. One more last tip before I begin shooting today I'd like to mention is, if you go back to my last video on range training and you look at that drill I showed, which is this, it involves knocking in an arrow, going through your whole process, except you don't release the arrow. When you actually aim down the arrow at the target and have a target up and everything, you just don't take the shot. That can reveal some errors that you may have. And my error that I noticed last evening was, when I did go to take the shot, that there was a movement of the arrow that went up and left. And that explains why I've been shooting a little bit high and to the left quite often. And it has to do with a little bit of an unbalanced situation and overextending, which has been an issue of mine throughout my career, is just pulling back so far, a little bit too far, that you become unstable with your core. And it should be basic archery mechanics. However, if you're doing this on your own and you haven't taken a video of yourself, you probably aren't even aware of it. But the way I discovered it was when I would almost take the shot, except I wouldn't release my actual fingers, I would see the bow jump up and to the left. And I found out it's because I was overextending. And this is what I mean. I'm back here and I'm just getting too far back, and it will literally start to throw my balance slightly back. And what happens is the bow arm will go up and you'll have an unstable shot and you'll shoot high left. So it's actually a matter of me correcting that and staying focused, staying centered, and do not overextend. This is why there's not a lot of people that practice this form of archery, because as you can see, there are a lot of things to look at. And I honestly do believe that unless you look at all these things, that you will never become skilled enough to compete and win at a national or international level. Every single shooter that has done well at nationals or internationally, they have absolutely put the time in, and they've determined their own form through absolute sheer dedication. So my hat's off to anybody who's medaled at a national or international tournament, because I know I have an idea of what it involves. So this is the drill that I've used yesterday that really let me know of one error that I had. To get started, here's another real simple archery basic. It would count, you would think that the best thing is to start with your body just centered as I'm standing now. However, when you put the bow out, that changes your weight, because your arm weighs something and your bow weighs something. So you're adding an extra 5, 10, 15 pounds in front of you. I would recommend that you, and it's generally accepted good practice, to actually put your body weight slightly forward. And so if this is 12 o'clock, kind of in the I'd say 2 or 3 o'clock range, so you're actually slightly forward. And especially if you're shooting on any kind of a hill, it becomes even more important. And that'll help you stabilize your core and keep yourself more balanced when shooting up or downhill and shooting at long ranges and different angles. So this is the drill that I do recommend. I recommend you do this every single day at some point in your practice. Just go ahead. So I'm at 30 yards here on the field, and so the first thing I do is I set my crawl, which for me is believe it or not, I just go for this right in the split in the finger tab there. That's what actually works for me. Set the crawl. I set my stance. I put pressure on the bowstring so I don't lose that crawl. And then just go ahead and shoot. But at this time, I'm just going to go through the drill a few times so you see what I mean. There was the first arrow. Whisper quiet. I'm going to go through the four arrow set, and then I'll actually shoot. So I set the crawl, I set the stance, I just go through my shot routine and do everything I need to do, except I don't actually release the arrow. This also builds confidence in your shot routine and your process. Seems like a good centered focus there. Two more arrows to practice with before I actually shoot. So when practicing these draw holds, I recommend that you go through your normal process as usual. I wouldn't recommend holding for an extreme long period of time. I think even 30 seconds is a little bit too long. You might be able to get away with 20 seconds, but be forewarned that if you hold your draw, a full draw for a very long period of time, that there's a possibility that you could do some damage to your joints, your shoulder joints, your tendons, ligaments, etc. Because it's not a natural position for the human body to be in for a long time. I'd be careful with extremely long draw holds. Just hold your normal length, or maybe double it. So if you normally hold maybe 3 seconds, go to 6, but I would not do it for too long because of the possibility you may injure yourself and take yourself out of the game before you even get started. Now it's time to shoot for score and actually shoot the arrows and move on to the next target. This is a 30-yard field. So the 4 arrows are taken at this range. For me and where I am, that was a very good shot. Let's go ahead and scope it out. Yeah, that's in the spot, 30 yards. In scoring these targets, the bullseye is 5 points. This white second ring is usually called the pro ring, that's 4 points. The black outer ring is 3 points, and that's how you score the arrows. The X it's the 5 plus an X. So I have a 17 with 1 X on the first 30-yard field target. Next target is target number 2, and it is 25 yards at the field distance. Another thing I haven't shown yet, these are called finger slings, and the idea is that once you wrap this around, I'm thinking about it, it's weird, okay. You put it around your thumb, and then you put your hand around the grip, and then you put this other loop around your index finger, and the idea is that you can shoot with a very relaxed grip, and so the bow will fall forward and you'll catch it in the sling. I highly recommend this for target shooting. I do not recommend it for hunting. If you're going to use a sling, I don't recommend this for hunting. However, I do recommend a sling that would attach to your stabilizer joint here. Basically, it'll come back and it'll wrap around, and then you can put your hand through that into the grip. And then when your bow shoots and you use a relaxed grip, bow will drop forward and the sling will catch the bow so it doesn't fall on the ground. Most target shooters that I know of shoot with a relaxed grip because putting a lot of tension in your bow hand is not a good idea for shooting with these pistol type grips that come with the ILF recurve bows and compounds. Longbow is a different story. I have no experience with the longbow, and I don't know how that's shot. I just know about recurves and compound bows that I shot a quarter of a century ago. So first thing I do is I set the sling. Actually, the first thing I do is I knock an arrow. So knock an arrow on the arrow rest. Make sure that you have cock feather out. And you can do that by having the slight indentation on the nock always lined up with your cock feather. That's what I do, so I can actually feel it and also visually check. Then I put the finger sling. I put my hand around the grip, and the first end is already around my thumb. The second loop goes around my index finger, and that will catch the bow after I release the arrow. So this is 25 yards. I need to find my 25-yard distance. Crawl, I set that. And then to put a little tension on the bowstring so I maintain that crawl. And I look at the bullseye. Next I'm going to center my weight. I'm going to put my weight slightly forward, around 2 o'clock, slightly forward and in that direction, and stabilize. I'm going to draw with my elbows primarily, and I'm going to draw with my triceps, primarily, and just go through my process. Set my bow shoulder down in its socket, very important. And shoot. So in that case, my windage was excellent. However, I set the wrong crawl, and this is the second time I've done it on this target. And something you really need to pay attention to is when you actually go ahead and are competing, believe it or not, it's the real fundamental things that are the most important. And I mean, real logical things are the absolute key. Literally, for a bare bow shooter, setting the correct crawl is the very first thing you're going to put in your mind before you do anything else. If you're a sight shooter who has a movable sight, you're going to make sure you set that right away at the first range. First thing you should do. If you shoot with multiple pins, again, in your mind, you're going to pick the correct pin and do that first, and then go through the process. So what I did, this is, I can show you, and what I need to do to fix it, is I used the wrong direction in other words, so my 30 is here, it's split. So my 25, which is a closer range, it means I crawl down farther. So that's my 30 and this is my 20, so I actually want to be right in between it, right there. So I'm going to go through that process again, start from scratch. Well, it looks like I did a little bit better than I thought here. I had all the arrows in the score, and for me that's a complete and total success. My last shot was in the spot, and I executed properly with that shot. And these misses, literally, well, the elevation was incorrect point on, which I have just corrected now. But as far as I'm missing to the right, that very well could be a string blur. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it is. Just make sure whatever string blur sight picture you use, that you keep it consistent. Always check it at full draw. If you don't check it, I guarantee your windage will be off. It is so important to check that for a barebow shooter, because your string blur is your rear peep sight. Although nobody can see it, it's there. It has to be there. The compound shooters, they shoot through the peep and they look through the center of the string, and that's their rear sight. Like in the military, there's a peep in the back, and you put your eye in the center of that. That is your rear sight for shooting iron sights with, for example, an M1 rifle that was used in World War II. I think it's absolutely paramount that you go ahead and establish your string blur and know what it is and can be consistent with it. If you do not, you will never find consistency with your windage as shooting a vertical bow. So that's my tip of the day. This is the third target on the field course, and this is 45 yards. All 4 arrows are taken at 45 yards distance, and this is actually about the average distance that you will shoot at a field hunter course. So the first arrow is down range, and you can go ahead and use your binoculars and see where you are. See where the arrow hit. In my case, it's a little high to the right. And that's more than likely just me. That one went in the same place, so I need to make an adjustment for my last two arrows. I need to shoot lower. I suspect that my point on is a little bit farther than I anticipated. Yeah, they're both in the 3 ring, and they're both right about 1 o'clock. I'm not that concerned about the windage, because I know that's just that's actually a string blur related, but the elevation is a little bit of concern, and as I'm fine-tuning my basic archery form, what I'm finding is that my point on is not what I thought it was. I used to think it was 45, so then I shot a little bit high last time, so I figured it's probably around 47. But right now I'm thinking it's probably about 50 yards, so I'm gonna aim. So I'll put the point of the arrow on the bottom black ring, and that'll be, I'm standing at 45 yards. If my point on is at 50, that should be about right with these arrows. I'm shooting, these are the top hat and the break-off points, which I really like. They're a little expensive. You're gonna pay around $30 for a dozen. I put the full size in. I haven't broken off the weight, so it's 110 grains, and these are 600 Easton Axis 5mm shafts. And these are the best arrow shafts that I've ever shot in my life, and I would highly recommend these arrow shafts for anybody that's interested in field, target, or bow hunting. I use them for field archery and target archery because they are so nice. And these 5mm diameters, it makes a good aiming point, and they are extremely durable and extremely rugged. So my hat goes off to Easton for making such a fantastic arrow. I recommend you give these Easton Axis 5mm shafts a try if you haven't, and I think you're gonna like them. So I'm gonna put the point of the arrow on the 3 ring at the bottom of 6 o'clock, and that should put them right in the spot. So I like the correction there with the elevation. Let me see where we are here. All right, it looks a little low. Yeah, it's low off target. I'm gonna fire one more arrow and take it from there. Yeah, the windage is perfect, so. There, that was my one good shot out of those 4. You'll notice that when I release the arrow, you'll notice that my string hand, how it just comes back naturally like that. And that is ideal, and it will only happen if you do everything right. Never forget that the release is paramount. It's primarily the result of your alignment and execution period. And that there is no release other than the fact that you release your fingers from the bowstring. But however you end up is a direct result of physics. So if you have your elbow like way out in front, you're gonna end up with your bow string hand coming way out here to the side, which you'll see that a lot. And but if you have everything in alignment where the arrow is in line with your elbow, and you have your body in the best alignment, your shoulders in your alignment, everything is the best alignment that you can get. When you release that arrow, when you release the bowstring, it should just come straight back and start to wrap around in the back of your neck for a lower anchor point, which I recommend for targets. Now, if you're at a higher anchor point for bow hunting, which I recommend a higher anchor point for bare bow hunting, then instead of going like around your neck, it'll just simply come along the side of your face there. But again, the release is a direct result of your alignment and your execution. Okay. Make sure you're standing at the 15-yard mark and put your 4 arrows into the bullseye. I had 3 good shots. First one was not so good, but it's in the scoring. It's going to be a scored arrow, and as far as I'm concerned, in my class, that's a good thing. This target is, it's 40 yards. It's a field target at 40 yards. Since my point on is 50 yards, I have to decide where I'm going to hold here. But I remember I have a specific mark here. In my case, my crawl for this yardage, normally, so this would be 50 yards, and here's 30 in between, so it's halfway. It's literally halfway on my index finger there, and I set the crawl like that. Okay, 3 more good ones and we'll be underway here. One more. Next target, target number 6, is 55 yards, and it's all 4 arrows shot at this range. My point on is 50 yards, so for that reason, I'm going to hold the point of the arrow, the tip point of the arrow, I'm going to hold it on the 3 ring, and at the 12 o'clock on the top side of the target. And the reason for that is at this range, they should drop into the bullseye at this range. Alright, so I'm in the 3 ring off to the left about, maybe about 8 o'clock, and the reason for that is mostly I forgot about this side hill. There is a fairly steep side hill. It's more than it appears, and so the hill is leaning like this. So if you stand with your body straight up and down in reference to the landscape, you'll end up canting the bow and you'll miss. So I was not aware that I was canting the bow to the left, and that's why I missed to the left. You can't go by the land, obviously, because we're on a slope here. So what you can do is you can look for a tree. There's a tree just right next to the target, and the tree looks like it's leaning to the right. However, that's because the land slopes down. The tree is more than likely straight. So I'm going to go ahead and align my bow vertically with that tree and take the next 3 shots. Chances are that it should be, hopefully, if that tree is straight, it'll be, I'll have my windage figured out here. I collapsed on that shot. I was fatiguing from holding for so long. You might want to go ahead and establish a vertical hold first, like that, and then draw back your bow. It's a lot to do at full draw. So I'll put 2 more arrows downrange. There, now I'm off to the right, so I corrected that windage issue. Now I'm going to hold, it's a little bit low. All 3 arrows are low. I'm going to go ahead and put the point of the tip of the arrow right on the top edge of the target, and it should drop into the bullseye. Okay. Off to the left, I think that was, that's something that I occasionally do. I heard it referred to as ground hogging. And what ground hogging refers to is you become more interested in where your arrow is going to hit on the target than your form. And that is an absolute no-no in target archery. That is the worst thing you can do. And for that matter, when you're shooting at an animal, it's the same thing. You have to have your mind 100% focused on your form and believe in yourself and your form. And you cannot start following the arrows in flight, stop looking for them on the target. And it's a real subtle thing. You may not even realize you're doing it. But if you look at your video and just be aware of what you're doing, you'll probably catch yourself. And it's a bad mistake that a lot of people do. And all you can tell yourself is just to think about the form and only the form and your shot process. This is target number 9 on the field half. It's a nice 20-yard target, and 4 arrows shot at this range should be a cake. Alright, a little high. Make some adjustments. Whew. Now, that's not exactly what you want to do, but main thing is I am on target. I mean the scoring rings. Just let that bad shot go and just move on. And we got one more. Alright, so I got 2 good shots out of 4. At my level, I'll take it. I hope that the deer doesn't react to my first shot and I get a second shot, because I might need it. I'm at the 20-yard field target, and I've got 4 arrows on the target, so that would be scored as a 5, 5, 3, 3, and the total would be 16 points. On these, the 2 5s, they are simply a result of following my form, believing in the process, and executing a decent shot. Now these 2 misses, that's entirely my fault, and boy, if I ever can solve that issue, you know, correct 50% of my poor shots, I'll be at the top of my game. This is called the peep target. It's normally referred to as peep target. The range is very short. It's this one is actually ranged in feet instead of yards. We've got 35, 30, 25, and 20 marked. So you shoot one arrow from each distance and then score. You'll notice that my form was good on that shot, how my release hand came straight back behind my neck, and the bow went slightly forward and to the left. That's typical for a right-handed shooter. Generally considered good form for Olympic style archery and barebow recurve. Now the barebow recurve bows, they won't drop such drastically because they're not as heavy. They don't have all these counterbalances, but it'll be a similar reaction to the bow. Next shot is 30 feet. You'll notice on that shot I had a anticipation. I anticipated the shot, and as a result, that's what created that shaking in the bow arm. The only solution that I know of is just to plow through, is to reset yourself and continue forward. You have to persevere and be strong. Last shot is 20 feet. I had good form on that last shot. Looks like I scored a full 19 points, only one error. So where I am at, that's fantastic, and I'm very happy with that. This target would be scored as 5, 5, 5, and 4. So that's 19 points and 1x. This is the 35-yard fan. So there are 4 different places to shoot from, and 1 arrow is shot from each location. Alrighty, so we got 35 yards, so thank you, that's 30. And we need 35. Okay. right. Good elevation. I'll take it. Definitely getting better this on around. With the 35-yard fan, I done well with my elevation. I do have an issue with the windage, which I'll work on. Well, this would be scored as an X443, which would be 16 points. You have to be able to establish good archery alignment with the arrow, and this is the key. The bow is not that important. It's the arrow and how you set up your body for alignment. So my goal is to, when I draw back, I need to get my elbow, see, it's not quite in alignment now. It needs to be all the way back here into good alignment. Now the elbow's directly behind the arrow, you can see. I'm back from the Pennsylvania State Archery Association's annual Field Hunter tournament that's held in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. It's a 2-day event. The first day involves shooting the 28 field targets, which involves shooting 114 arrows for score from distances from about 10 yards out to 80. And then the second day is very similar. It's just a different colored target, and it's called the Hunter round. And again, it's a total of 28 targets, and 4 arrows are shot from each target, so that equals 114. So in the 2-day tournament, you're shooting 228 arrows. You need to be able to shoot that many arrows and have that last arrow be shot with as much strength and precision with your form as the first. So it's a fantastic way to learn how to shoot under pressure, and that will pay off in the field. I'm an avid bow hunter, and the target archery that I do really brings the confidence and the trust in myself and the belief in my equipment and belief in my shooting style, so that when I'm in a hunting situation, I'm able to keep my cool and have a lot of confidence when I take a shot, so I can make an ethical shot and I can harvest these white-tailed deer quickly and efficiently, so that I may enjoy the organic venison and others may enjoy the organic meats that they're not processed in any way. The deer are living naturally in their environment, so you're just simply getting the natural vitamins and minerals from nature. Hopefully, only that, and you're helping your health by eating this organic lean meat.